If you're Charley Brewster, then you're passing up sexy time with your girlfriend because you're too busy fondling your binoculars to get a good look at your new neighbor as he carries a casket into his house. In the 1985 movie Fright Night, having a vampire neighbor scares Charley more than neglecting his girlfriend or struggling with trigonometry. We'll take a look back at this horror classic on the next Back to the Feature.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Charley is your typical teenage boy living with his single mom. We first meet him as he's making out with his girlfriend Amy one night while watching his favorite late night show Fright Night, hosted by Peter Vincent, an actor most famous for playing a vampire hunter in old horror movies. Still pissed at Charley for blowing her off, Amy meets him at the local diner to apologize for how they've been fighting, but before she can finish her thought, Charley is once again completely distracted by the news on the TV. There's a report about a body being found, and Charley tries to tell Amy and his best friend Evil Ed that the woman shown on the news is the same one that went into his neighbor's house the day before. Amy has had enough at this point and smears food all over his face, and then Evil Ed, who doesn't like being called evil by the way, laughs at him and delivers one of my favorite lines.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
That night, Charley stays up late standing guard watching out his bedroom window with his binoculars at the ready. And eventually he falls asleep, only to wake up to the sight of a young woman standing in the bedroom across his. She is removing her bra while a tall man stands behind her, and Charley gets a little too excited and really is a perv after all. Just not with Amy. The man caresses the woman and raises his head back, showing some nice shiny fangs. Instant boner killer for Charley though. Just as he's getting ready to take a bite, he sees Charley watching him. Charley freaks out and may have shit his pants as he's totally busted. Like any proper vampire, he closes the blinds before he feeds. But what's with vampires having super long fingers? They look weird because it looks like they're missing a knuckle or something. So Charley tells his mom that the neighbor is a vampire, but she doesn't believe him. And then he tells Amy, but she doesn't believe him either. Left with no choice, he resorts to going to the police. He convinces a detective to meet him at the house to investigate Charley's claim. But it turns out the neighbor, Jerry Dandrige, isn't at home, but they're greeted by his assistant Billy Cole. Once inside, everything is pretty normal and the detective doesn't see anything worth looking into, so Charley resorts to confessing that he thinks Jerry's a vampire. The detective is pissed because vampires don't exist, and he escorts Charley out, apologizing to Billy about the intrusion. Poor Charley, he's screwed. Now the vampire and his minion know about him, knowing about them. He's freaking out because he knows they're going to come for him when it gets dark. He has no one to turn to. Only one person might be crazy enough to believe him. That's right, Evil Ed to the rescue. For payment of a whopping $8, Evil Ed shares his knowledge of how one can protect themselves from vampires.
Start with this. But you must have total faith in it for it to work. Then get some garlic, links of the stuff you can wear around your neck and hang from your window. If he comes for you, that'll be the way. Then, of course, there's holy water. But you got to get a priest to say a blessing over it first.
That's it?
I'm afraid so. But your best protection right now, Charles, is that a vampire cannot enter your house without being invited by the rightful owner first.
Are you sure about that?
Positive.
Thank you. Thank you.
That night, Charley follows Ed's sage advice and fortifies his room until he gets called downstairs by his mom. He comes downstairs and his mom introduces him to their handsome new neighbor Jerry. Charley just freezes. You can literally hear him shitting his pants. You had one fucking job, Mom. Jerry's all charming and shit with the mom, who you can tell is liking all the attention. He's very polite with Charley, but I'm sure he was actually thinking, I'm your new daddy now. So Jerry now has an open invitation to Charley's house and can come in anytime he wants. And Jerry wants. Later that night, he visits Charley in his room and tells him to forget about him, and he'll leave Charley, his mom, and his friends alone. But poor Charley is resistant to the offer and stabs old Jerry in the hand with a number 2 pencil, and it really smarts. Jerry turns all old and nasty with a serious dental problem, and I bet his breath was pretty offensive too. Jerry runs home to have Billy nurse his wound in the most homoerotic way possible while he calls Charley on the phone to let him know he'll be back the next night to finish him off once and for all. The next day, in an act of true desperation, Charley goes to the local TV studio to meet with Peter Vincent as he's leaving. He pleads with Peter to help him kill his neighbor. But obviously Peter thinks he's batshit nuts and tells him to get lost. Not even the famed vampire hunter believes him. Evil Ed and Amy visit Charley and find that he's gone over the edge. He's in his bedroom, whittling away like Jed Clampett on some wooden stakes while surrounded by the biggest fire hazard ever. Lit candles are everywhere. He tells them his plan to go over and kill Jerry Dandrige, but they convince him not to do anything stupid until they get back. They track down Peter Vincent at his apartment and offer to pay him money if he'll go help prove that Jerry isn't a real vampire to save Charley from himself. Having just been fired from his job and holding an eviction notice, he agrees to the deal. They call Jerry ahead of time to arrange a meeting, but he will only agree to drink the so-called holy water as long as it's just plain tap water. Peter arrives at Charley's and they, along with Amy and Evil Ed, venture over to Jerry's house where they're greeted warmly. Again, Jerry is very charming and admits he is a big fan of Peter Vincent and he is very enamored with Amy. Enchanté. Everyone is very relaxed by Jerry's charm. Everyone but Charley, that is. Even after watching Jerry drink the holy water, he's still convinced he's a vampire. And as they're getting ready to leave, Peter sees that Jerry isn't casting a reflection in his little mirror, so he freaks out and quickly hurries everyone out the door. He admits to Peter what he saw, or rather what he didn't see, and drives off scared shitless. Charley and Evil Ed walk Amy home to make sure she gets there safely. Evil Ed decides to venture off on his own down a dark alley because things always work out fine when you try to take a shortcut in life. Sure enough, little Evil Ed isn't alone in that alley because Jerry catches up with him and promises no one will bully him ever again. Poor dumb sucker. Now that Ed is out of the way, Jerry chases Charley and Amy into a nightclub. Meanwhile, Evil Ed shows up at Peter's door and asks to be let in. Yeah, I know. Pretty obvious that Peter just invited a vampire into his apartment. And almost immediately, Ed is like, hey, check out my new bite marks on my neck and these awesome new chompers. Evil Ed tries to bite Peter, but forgets that Peter's trained in the art of fucking vampires up. He grabs a cross and presses it against Ed's forehead, leaving one hell of a mark. The cross burned right into his skin, and now poor Ed's new chompers don't look so good. He's in bad need of some braces and some aloe vera for that burn. And Ed is so mad that all he can do is whine that he's going to go run to Jerry and tattletale on Peter. Adam moves, he just dives out the window. Back at the club, Jerry saunters in like he owns the place. His animal magnetism calls to Amy, and she meets him on the dance floor. Now you would think he would just bite her right away, but nope. He wants to play with his food. But first, the forbidden dance. Charley tries to rescue Amy from Jerry's tractor beam of love, but he fails. And when it's time to bounce, Jerry has to kill a couple security guards first, and then just walks right out with Amy. Jerry has Amy all to himself back at his place. He changed her into a new dress and laid her out on a rug in front of a fireplace like it was some move he read about in Playboy. 10 ways to woo a woman. He does the biting thing again, but then he just leaves her in the room so he can go deal with his new house guest. Seems Peter has joined Charley in an attempt to kill him once and for all. Jerry is briefly pushed back when Charley flashes his cross at him, but Billy steps in and introduces Charley to the back of his hand. And with Charley down, Peter doesn't need any such introduction. He hauls ass out of there, and I'm thinking, where in the hell is he going? Peter runs next door to Charley's house and is looking for Charley's mom, but instead finds Evil Ed in a terrible Raggedy Ann wig. And in a strange turn of events, Ed somehow turns into a wolf. Not a bat, but a howl-at-the-moon wolf, and chases Peter down the hall where there is a struggle, and Ed is thrown through the railing and onto the floor below, where he takes a broken table leg through the chest. When Peter goes downstairs, he watches Evil Ed Wolf Edition, slowly turned back into evil at dumbass dead kid edition. Took his ass forever to die though, and it reminded me of Pee Wee Herman's death scene in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Having a fresh kill under his belt gives Peter the courage he needed to go back and help Charley with his Jerry problem. When Peter returns to Jerry's house, he finds Charley locked in a room upstairs with the now vamping out Amy. And this is just another case of Jerry playing with his food. He thinks it will be all funny for Amy to feed on Charley while Jerry and Billy are down in the basement prepping the dirt in his coffin. Charley and Peter leave Amy behind and go looking for Jerry, but get cock-blocked by Billy. This guy's always getting in the way. They know he's not a vampire, so Peter decides to use a more efficient method of dealing with him. He poisons him with lead. Shot his ass point blank in the forehead and he dropped like a rock. It didn't take though. Old Billy is a tough sumbitch. He's walking back up the stairs like, "Please sir, can I have some more?" And Peter grants his request and shoots him 5 more times in the chest. He goes down in a big cloud of smoke. And I'm thinking, where did all this fucking smoke come from all of a sudden? The smoke clears and there's Billy again. All fucked up, but still trying. The kid has heart. But not for long though, because Charley shoves a wooden stake right through his heart. And this seemed to do the trick because the next thing you know, Billy starts linking some green slime like a contestant on a Nickelodeon game show. And it's a pretty cool practical effect, but just, what the hell was this guy? Jerry crashes through the giant window at the top of the staircase in a final showdown with Charley and Peter, only to be confused when the sun starts to slowly rise. Dude totally forgot how to tell time even though he has clocks all over his house. It's 6 a.m. and past his curfew. He turns into a bat and flies around the room, only to attack Peter instead of doing the smart thing, like getting back to his coffin. And this is where it really gets literally batshit crazy. He pins Peter down and bites Charley on the arm when he tries to help. But thankfully a ray of sunshine hits him, causing a weird green flame, and he toodles off towards the basement finally. Peter and Charley follow him to the basement and take the obvious strategy of splitting up. Yes, the basement is that big. Only they're not alone now. Amy has decided to join the party, and she confronts Charley, who instantly notices something is off. One look at her and he's like, "Girl, you have changed." Suddenly she has longer hair and bigger boobs and some big old fucked up teeth with a grin a mile wide. As Amy chases Charley around the basement, Peter is busy trying to break into Jerry's coffin. He gets it open and starts hammering away, putting a stake into his heart, but not fast enough. Before he can get it all the way in, Jerry's ass wakes up and bolts up out of the coffin. He's looking pretty worse for wear at this point, and his own frustration leads to his ultimate demise. He chucks the wooden stake across the room and breaks a piece of the darkened window, letting just a small streak of light inside. This gives Charley and Peter the idea on how to finish him off. They start breaking all the windows so that the basement is flooded with natural sunlight, leaving Jerry with nowhere to hide. Eventually he is engulfed in light and goes up in green flames, leaving a huge bat-like skeleton behind. And even that goes up in smoke. During the epilogue, with Jerry Dandrige dead finally, everything returns to normal. Peter has his old job back on TV, and Charley is back to fooling around with Amy in his bedroom. In the dark bedroom across the way in the now vacant house next door, we see a set of red eyes that fades into the blackness, followed by the sound of Evil Ed laughing and saying,
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
absolutely love this movie. Still do. Chris Sarandon played a perfect Jerry Dandrige, from the nice, charming version all the way through the various stages of being a vampire. And Roddy McDowall was also perfectly cast as the older actor just trying to stay relevant. Fun fact, this movie was released on my 18th birthday, and it starred Roddy McDowall, who played one of my favorite characters in one of my all-time favorite film franchises. He played Cornelius in the original Planet of the Apes. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below to help grow this channel. I appreciate you taking time out of your day and hope you will come back for the next Back to the Feature.